Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a worth the buy or nah foundation and concealer review on two products that you guys have been bombarding me about for the past month. And I know you guys are probably like, girl, this is so late. Yes, it is late. I'm late to the bandwagon, but I'm going to be talking about the Morphe foundation and concealer. So I'm actually so excited to be reviewing these. Finally, they launched it on, I want to say January 18th, and I just got my package. I bought it on the day that it launched. I just got my package today. Today is Saturday, and I'm like, okay, let me stop everything I'm doing and get this review going. I personally did not watch any reviews whatsoever because I wanted to form my own opinion. I didn't want to go into this review being biased or feeling some type of way. I just want to go it completely clean slate, not knowing anything, building up my own thoughts, and bringing you guys my real honest reviews. We're going to first start off with the foundation. It's a full coverage foundation. It's supposed to be a 24-hour wear, sweat-proof, transfer-resistant, water-resistant, great for all skin types, and I think this is like a matte finish, so that's what I've been seeing. I like the fact that this packaging does include the claims of the foundation. I hate when drugstore packaging doesn't tell you shiz. You have to go online and look it up for yourself. This is like drugstore price, but Morphe's more so of like their own thing. They're not like in any drugstore or anything like that. But I do appreciate a good affordable foundation. Let's go ahead and just start off with our skincare, which is basically just my moisturizer and my primer. So I'm going to be using my Ultra Repair Face Moisturizer. Now I do want to say they did come out with a primer for this, but at that point I was like, you know what, I'm really only interested on the foundation and the concealer. I don't really care for the primer right now. So we put on our moisturizer. Now we're going to go ahead and use our primer. I'm going to be using Milani Prime Shield. You guys know I really enjoy this stuff. This is the mattifying and pore minimizing one. I really like how it feels on my skin. I like the consistency. I like what it does. I just live for a good drugstore primer. I'm excited to see more brands come out with really good primers this year. That's like something that I want to see. So we have our primer on, and now we can go ahead and start with the foundation. So the foundation that I picked up was F3.20. Now, this is another thing. When you're buying products online, it's really hard because you don't know where you fall in the color range, especially when there's so many shades. I'm all for there being so many shades of this foundation. I think it's absolutely amazing, but it's a little bit of a struggle when you just can't really figure out which one will be perfect for you. Now, they did have a model for each shade group, which I thought was really cool. I know Amanda Ensing was in there, Tamana was in there, and a bunch of other really great influencers, which I am totally all for. I think that's great that they have a good group of individuals in there that represent each shade range. I feel like that kind of guides you towards which, selection you may be in, but then the hardest part is picking from that range. So I just went with the description, with the undertones, and I decided to pick up F320. Now, right now, I've been really underestimating my shade every time I buy online. Usually what I like to think of is like tan and like those golden undertones, but I keep forgetting that it's not summer. So my summer shade is nowhere near my winter shade. So I keep underestimating myself, but I think this one will be pretty good because I did go ahead and swatch it once I got in the middle because I'm like, let me make sure this is good. So this is the packaging it comes in, which to be honest, I don't mind because I only paid $18 for this. So I'm not expecting like this, I'm not expecting this. And I think these are also really good for traveling, portable, and these are also really good for like makeup artists who are on the go and constantly working on clients. So go ahead and do one side with my sponge and then one side with my brush, which you guys constantly see me do, so that's nothing new here on my channel. I'm really ready to get in here. So let's just go ahead, zoom in, and do this face. Okay, so we are up close and personal, and we're gonna go ahead and start off with this side right here. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do is pump some foundation out. That's what it looks like. You can see it's a little tiny bit runny. It's not like extremely like matte and thick. Well, it doesn't feel like it's gonna be really, really matte and thick. It's definitely, I can see some creaminess in there, which I'm definitely grateful for because from what I've seen, just of like description and stuff, I feel like the foundation would come out kind of thick, but this seems kind of like a good full coverage consistency for sure, because it definitely feels like it's gonna be full. So let's go ahead. I think the color will be good too. This color does have those olive undertones. As you can see, my neck does have some olive in there. So that's why I went with that. So I'm gonna go in my Morphe sponge. I'm gonna begin blending. It smells like clay, kind of like paint as well. Okay, it's actually blending very, very well into the skin. You can't see any of my redness peek through. I mean, look at the difference. Does it feel heavy? It doesn't feel heavy either. Looks pretty good. And I feel like the color matches me pretty well. Okay, so let's go to the forehead. The forehead's always the easy part. I use a little too much, so let's just go ahead and add it elsewhere. It blends really well with the sponge. I feel like the sponge is kind of giving it really that nice airbrushed effect. I don't like when a sponge absorbs too much of the product, but I feel like when you're working with a fuller coverage consistency, it's good to have that damp sponge in hand, because sometimes you can be a little bit heavy-handed, or sometimes when you have a really full coverage foundation and you're kind of scared to go in with it because you're not used to full coverage, it's good that the sponge can really absorb any of that extra product that you may not want sitting on top of the skin. So I feel like it really does a good job of pushing the product in without shearing the product out, especially if you're somebody that has texture, or you're somebody that has scarring or rosacea. That's what's going to serve as a good starting base for the application. But this actually looks really perfected on the skin. I'm not going to lie. It's giving me a really beautiful finish, and it's giving me more of a smoothing effect over some of my texture. I know that in my last review, I reviewed the Milani, and I could tell the big difference because the Milani, you could just see my texture so enhanced. It didn't look pretty. It just looked like, whoa, she has a lot going on there. And I feel like even though this is a full coverage foundation, it doesn't look like it's a cakey full coverage foundation as of right now. Now, maybe with the brush on this side, it may look a little bit different, but I feel like the sponge is doing a great job of really applying everything the way that it should. So this is how much we have left now. Honestly, guys, I feel like forehead, we don't need anything else because it's pretty evened out. But I feel like I am going to be taking whatever's left of this and putting it on my cheek, because that's usually the place I like to add it on. But I feel like I don't need to add more. This isn't one of those foundations that you're going to have to build and build, because as soon as you lay it on there, you're going to get really good coverage. Now, what I am seeing though is that this foundation sets pretty fast. So I would recommend you work pretty quickly with the foundation, because if you don't, you may find yourself having some issues. So right now I'm going to go ahead and add this foundation super fast. So just be mindful that it does set fast. So if you are building, you want to make sure that you just quickly go and put on what you need to put on. But I think that this is enough for us today. I do have to say though, if you're somebody that likes more of that lighter coverage look, then you need way less of this. You do not need that much of this product, because you probably will be like, whoa, this is really full coverage. The coverage is kind of reminding me of Estee Lauder Double Wear coverage mixed with a little bit of Kat Von D Lock-It. Just coverage, not the way that it feels, not the way that it's setting, just I feel like the coverage that it gives me. Now I do have to say, up here, my forehead lines, I do have some lines up here. That's just me. That's just who I am. So you can see that it's settling into those fine lines. We didn't go in twice with this product. We just went in with that one layer up there, and it definitely setting into those fine lines. So if you don't like something setting to your fine lines, this may not be the one for you. I've tried other foundations. For example, the Dior foundation that I'm currently obsessed with, this does not set into your fine lines. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the side where we're gonna go in with the brush. Okay, so because we are using a Morphe foundation, a Morphe sponge, I want to go ahead and use a Morphe brush as well. This is my Morphe Jaclyn Hill JH03. I always forget the numbers of brushes. And with that much, that will be enough for me to cover. I just know it. So let's go ahead and dot it. I always like to dot it because I really distribute it where I need to. Now, for somebody that likes more of a lighter coverage, I would say less dots. But for me, because I need to cover up all my rosacea, I do need a little bit more of that coverage. So let's go ahead and start. Just take it in circular motions. And also, I like to pat it in. I feel like when you have a fuller coverage consistency, you can get away with that patting motion because it's not going to shear the product. This definitely blended in perfectly, as you can see. Covered immediately my rosacea. Okay, I have to say, I think it applies great with both the brush and the sponge. I was worried that with the brush we would have a little bit of an issues of it looking like too cakey or too heavy because brushes don't really absorb that much of the product unless you go in with a spray and spray it down and then it kind of like mixes with your foundation and it shears it just a touch for it to look more skin-like. But I feel like with either or you can get away with getting that great coverage. So I have this much left. As you can see, we were able to cover super fast with just that one pump out. So I just went in directly with my brush and we're just gonna put it right over. As you can see, it sets so fast. So on the back of the hand, when you first pump it out, it looks like a nice creamy, it has a little bit of that like shine in there. Like it almost looks like it's gonna have a little tiny bit of like good like a wet effect, but once it's on, as you can see, it's like matte. For somebody that has dry skin, this will not be for you. I'm just telling you from the fact that I look this nice and matte right now, I just know for my dry skin people, this won't be the move. I'm surprised that Morphe didn't come out with a like dewy foundation at the same time either. Considering that, you know, they're a pretty big brand at this point, I could have seen them doing a matte and a glowy foundation or hydrating foundation for my people that have dry skin, because I just feel like this will not work for somebody that has dry skin because it is a matte foundation. And even on me, like up here in my like forehead lines that I have up here, it's separating. So I can only imagine on somebody that has a lot of dryness. I mean, if you do want to try this, you're gonna have to moisturize the shit out of your face, and then you have to go in with some Matte Fix Plus, spray that brush down, or your sponge, some Tatcha Luminous spray, and then go with the foundation, maybe some like oil drops in there, because this is a matte scenario. For somebody that has oily skin, you're looking at this right now, you're like, yes, like we got rid of all these oils, this is my dream. Okay, so now I'm gonna be taking the concealer. This is in the shade C3.15. I also had to really look through these because I wanted to make sure I got the right one, and I think I got a pretty good shade for my complexion, hopefully. I don't know. Now that I look at it, actually, let me see. It's pretty similar to what I usually use as concealer, maybe a tad bit lighter, but I'm comparing it to the Laura Mercier. I think it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and read the claims for this. This is also a soft matte concealer. You guys know that when I use a very matte foundation, I don't like to use a very matte concealer or matte concealer. I like to stick more so with a hydrating concealer formula. So I definitely want to see that. So this is supposed to be an instant full-on concealing power, blendable, multitasking formula, free of fragrance and parabens. So that's all it says for this. I'm sure that you can use this also for your contour and stuff like that, but I personally like to use concealer for concealer, and then I like to use contour sticks to do my contour. So you can see that the doe foot applicator is really nice and big. It's pretty flat as well. Feels creamy, but it definitely feels more of a matte formula, like a soft matte. So I'm kind of worried because I don't want it to be drying. Especially since we have a matte foundation and then this matte concealer. How is it going to do with my setting powder? That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, it's blending really fast. Very fast. I feel like the color is pretty good. I always like a brightening concealer, so this one's pretty good. It's not like overly brightening, but you definitely get a good brightening power here. Looks very nice and perfected. As I'm blending, it blended out super fast, and there you go. Concealer is on and popping. So let's go ahead and take my powder. I'm gonna be taking my Patrick Star powder, and we're gonna be baking, because you guys know the drill. Now, I don't think I'm gonna leave this on for too long, just because we are working with matte products, so I'm scared that if I leave it for too long, it's going to cling on to my foundation and my concealer, and it's gonna look really dry. So let's just go ahead and put that to the side. I do have to say, first impressions, I feel like these products, the foundation, the concealer, are more so for somebody that likes full coverage. I feel like if you like natural, or if you're just, you know, somebody that prefers that vibe, you probably won't like these, because they're definitely like bam. I'm gonna give it about 30 more seconds on this side and then dust it off, because I'm not trying to have any bad situations. There's nothing like a really bad under eye baking moment that can just ruin the whole look. Because when you talk to people, the first place they look at is your eyes, because that's how you talk to people. You're not gonna be like, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. You're like, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So I always like to make sure that I get that shit together. I'm gonna go in with my brush. This is my Morphe M4833, and I'm gonna dust that away. Okay, you see? My dog's barking. Oh, my Leo. And it definitely gave me a matte finish right here. It didn't cling on to any of the foundation, any of the concealer. It's all perfectly in place. There's no creasing. We took care of that, and we can move on with our life. It looks really good for somebody that has oily skin. I'm hoping that it can stay this way through the entire day, because can you imagine if I stayed this matte the whole day? This would be like a holy grail for my oily skin people. But we're gonna have to see. Everything else looks really good, I do have to say. It almost looks like you have a powdered finish, like you just went in with a powder inside your face and you just look super snatched again. That's what it's giving me right now. The only complaint I had about the foundation was that it was definitely breaking apart up here, but I went back and just kind of started blending it and patting it in with my sponge, and it was much better. So that's good. So now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is put on the rest of my products, which is not that much, and then I'm gonna come back and give you guys my very first initial thoughts on how it worked with everything. Hey guys, so I am all snatched up. I finished all my makeup, and I was literally like so close to my mirror. Like I brought it like this close, and I was like looking at every inch of my makeup. I was like, I need to make sure everything is on point, because I want to give them a good thorough review. So I'm ready to talk about some of the things that I'm noticing with this foundation and concealer. I have to say I was really worried that because it's so matte, when I went in with blush it would start to separate, but it didn't separate at all, which is a really positive thing, because I feel like when I work with certain really matte foundations, I see that separation and I'm like, oh hell no. But it didn't do that at all. It looks really nice, and I'm definitely here for that. I do feel like it oxidized just a little tiny bit. Nothing too extreme, but I definitely feel like a little bit. I do have to say it looks, you know when something looks so matte that it like looks super perfected, almost like fake? I feel like my skin just looks so matte that I'm like, whoa. I wasn't prepared for this, you know? So what I do want to go ahead and do is I want to go ahead and set this with my Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. Now, I usually don't use this often unless I am going in with a very full coverage foundation that's super matte, and I'm like, whoa, this kind of looks like a little too matte, which is a lot coming from me who has very oily skin. I feel like this really helps your foundation stick on really nicely, but also it helps it kind of mesh with your actual skin and become one, and not look like there's a layer of heavy duty foundation laying on top. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do with this guy. Okay. I didn't think I needed to go in with that much, but I just like looked in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, my skin looks super matte, and I feel like this just really helped mold both of them together and make it look a little bit less of the super duper matte situation where it kind of looks like, whoa, that looks like a bit much to, okay, that looks like her skin, but perfected. I have to say, first impressions on the concealer, I don't know if I would pair it with this foundation. I would probably pair it with a more hydrating foundation because I feel like when I work with two mattes, it's just much for me, which is one of the reasons why I didn't even go ahead and highlight with concealer because I feel like that would have been way too much product. Okay, so the concealer does retail for $9. And then the foundation retails for $18. I do want to say that these are currently sold in your Morphe stores, so you guys can go into Morphe stores and find this foundation and concealer on the Morphe website, and I know Ulta is going to be carrying them. I personally haven't seen this at my local Ulta. It does say that they have it in stock now, but it's not in stock yet, so what I'm imagining is that they probably will be stocking this concealer and foundation into all Ulta stores within the next coming week or so. Maybe some Ultas already have it. I feel like when you live in the West Coast, you get everything first, because I feel like here on the East Coast, especially Maryland, we get things dead last. I would wait until it's in store because there's so many colors that the last thing you want to do is purchase on Morphe and then not like it. I mean, you can always purchase it on Ulta's website and then just return it at your local Ulta. Super easy and super hassle-free, especially if you don't have a Morphe store near you. Yeah, those are all my thoughts for now, and I'll be seeing you guys in a little bit. So stay tuned if you want to see if these products are worth the buy or not. Okay guys, so I am back. It is currently 11 p.m. at night. So as you can see, the foundation definitely still looks on the matte side. I definitely do have to say, I feel like using the Morphe Continuous Mist Spray helped a lot. I feel like it made the skin look a little bit more skin-like as opposed to super matte and foundation-y. I do like how it looks. I also like the fact that the under eyes look absolutely perfected now. I feel like when I give you guys that update, really up close, it looked very kind of cakey almost, like really up close here. But now it's not bad, but this under eye area looks so good. I would have to say that this foundation definitely isn't for somebody that has dry skin. If you have dry skin and you've been eyeing it because it's a new Morphe product, it has so many shades, I would not get it. I would wait. I would wait until they launch something that's a little bit more hydrating, a little bit more glowy, because this is very matte. You guys even saw my reaction. I was like, whoa, we matte. But I feel like for somebody that's looking for a very matte foundation, if you're very, very oily, I think you will definitely enjoy this, especially for the price. I feel like you can't beat the price. Also, I did touch it and it does not feel sticky whatsoever. It actually feels very, very velvety on the skin. Usually by this time of the day, I'm extremely oily. So I feel like my skin isn't extremely matte right now, but it's not dewy. So it's like almost that soft matte consistency that I would get from a soft matte foundation when I first apply it. So that's where we're at right now. So when I first applied it, it was very matte. Through the day, it's definitely gonna get a little bit more skin-like. And at the end of the day, with this matte foundation, if you do have really oily skin, it's gonna look more like skin, because that's what I'm getting right now. This is what I thought was gonna be the finish that I got as soon as I was done applying it, but this is the finish that I have now at 11 p.m. So it's actually not bad at all for somebody that does have oily skin. So like I mentioned, oily skin people, you're going to love this. This is for you for sure. Those are just my thoughts on that. Now I have to move on to the Morphe Concealer. I feel like this is a really good full coverage concealer, definitely more on that matte side. I personally wouldn't pair this type of concealer with this foundation because two matte products on my skin, they just don't work together well. I just get really worried, and then I just have to like quickly go ahead and just set everything fast. I feel like this is definitely something that I would want to use with a foundation that has like normal to a hydrating finish, or even if I want to go ahead and use this by itself, I feel like it'll be fine because you do get that full coverage, kind of like the Huda Beauty Overachiever concealer. But with this foundation, I don't think I would pair it again, because I definitely feel like it may not work. Now I do have to say, comparing it to some of the other concealers that I've tried these past few weeks, I still feel like it's not the #1 up there, but it's definitely something that you could consider buying if you do like a really full coverage concealer. But I had a lot of fun reviewing this foundation. I was definitely shocked to see how matte it was, because this was the matte I haven't seen in a while. So that is pretty impressive. I give it to Morphe for launching a foundation range with so many colors. I know a lot of people were complaining about how the colors were really gray, but here's how I see it. I feel like brands are going to have difficulties and people are always going to have something to talk about, but I give them mad props for launching a product that had so many shades because, you know, I feel like we're in a time where we need that, and I'm glad that they decided to do that, and they had, you know, the time to really create shades that would cater to a lot of different skin tone ranges. So I give them that for there. So those are all my final thoughts. I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope that it was useful. If you guys have any other suggestions for foundation reviews, drop them down below in the comment section. I do want to put it out there that my Hourglass foundation is coming very soon. I'm waiting for it to arrive to my house. I have a little story about that one, so I'll tell it once I do that review, but it is coming. I am doing the review, so stay tuned for that. If you guys are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe. I would love for you to become a member family here on YouTube because I wouldn't want you guys to miss my videos for the world. Also, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Lets me know to continue doing these fun videos for you guys. And also, don't forget to hit the notification button because YouTube doesn't notify people when I upload new videos, so I want to make sure that you get notified every single time. And that being said, I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon for a brand new video. Bye, guys!